Last time, we met Henry McCarty, the skinny, polite boy who would later become Billy the Kid. We saw how the death of his mother, poverty, and a desperate escape from jail pushed him onto the path of outlaw life. But that was just the beginning. Today, we step into the chaos of the Lincoln County War, where Billy became more than just a boy thief. He became a symbol, a fighter, and eventually, a legend. To understand Billy's story, we first need to understand Lincoln County in the 1870s. New Mexico was still a frontier, filled with ranchers, traders, and outlaws. Lincoln County was massive, larger than some U.S. states. But law and order? Practically non-existent. Two rival factions controlled the region. On one side, Lawrence Murphy and James Dolan, Irish businessmen who dominated trade in Lincoln. On the other side, John Tunstall, a young English rancher, and attorney Alexander McSween. These two groups were at war for control of cattle, land, and political power. The feud wasn't just about money. It was about who would define the future of New Mexico's economy. Murphy and Dolan had deep ties with corrupt officials and lawmen, while Tunstall and McSween attracted ambitious young settlers who dreamed of opportunity. The whole county became a pressure cooker of greed, survival, and vengeance. You could say Lincoln County in the 1870s wasn't so much the Wild West as it was the corporate West. Two companies fighting like Walmart and Amazon, except with more gunfights. Billy, now about 17 or 18, drifted into Lincoln County looking for work. He found it with John Tunstall, who treated him kindly. Tunstall gave Billy horses to ride, food to eat, and something he hadn't had in years: respect. Billy admired Tunstall, almost like a father figure. He wasn't just an employer. He believed in giving young men a chance, something Murphy's faction never did. But in February 1878, tragedy struck. Tunstall was ambushed and murdered by men loyal to Murphy and Dolan. For Billy, this wasn't just politics, it was personal. He swore revenge. Soon after, Billy and other young men formed a group called the Regulators. Their mission: avenge Tunstall's death. Many of the Regulators were barely out of their teens, rough-edged boys who had lost fathers or families in the harsh frontier life. For them, joining Billy was less about loyalty to Tunstall and more about having a brotherhood and a cause. For Billy, though, it was a chance to strike back against the injustice that had shaped his whole life. The Regulators didn't wait long. They hunted down men they believed responsible for Tunstall's murder. In April 1878, they ambushed Sheriff William Brady, who was allied with Murphy's faction. Brady and one of his deputies were gunned down in broad daylight. Billy was there, firing shots. This moment transformed him from local outlaw into a wanted killer across the territory. Killing a sheriff in broad daylight was like posting your crimes on Instagram Live. Everyone was going to notice. From that point, Billy's name wasn't whispered in back alleys anymore. It was printed in newspapers, shouted in saloons, and feared in the courts. Whether people saw him as a hero or a villain, everyone knew the kid. Lincoln County spiraled into chaos. Both factions armed themselves. Shootouts erupted across ranches and roads. Farmers hid their cattle. Shopkeepers closed their doors, and families prayed every night not to get caught in the crossfire. Billy and the Regulators were hunted, but they struck back again and again. The governor of New Mexico, Samuel Axtell, tried to restore order, but the conflict had already turned into a full-blown war. Historians later explained that the Lincoln County War was less a war of ideals than a war of survival. Young men like Billy were swept up in a fight much bigger than themselves. Billy's reputation as a fearless fighter grew quickly. Some said he laughed during gunfights. Others swore he could hit a target while riding full speed on horseback. These stories Half truth, half exaggeration, spread like wildfire, making Billy larger than life. The climax of the Lincoln County War came in July 1878. The infamous 5-day battle in the town of Lincoln. Billy and the Regulators were holed up in McSween's house, surrounded by Murphy's men. For 5 days, gunfire echoed through the streets. Civilians cowered in their homes. Lincoln looked more like a war zone than a frontier town. On the 5th day, Murphy's men set fire to McSween's house. Trapped inside, Billy and his friends had to fight their way out through smoke and flames. McSween was killed. But Billy escaped, once again, defying death. Imagine being stuck in a burning house, bullets flying, and still finding a way out. If Billy had 9 lives, he was definitely down to about 6 after that night. Witnesses later swore they saw him sprint through the smoke like a ghost, revolvers blazing, disappearing into the desert night. The war left Lincoln County scarred. Dozens were dead, businesses ruined, and the law in shambles. Billy the Kid emerged as both a hero to some and a villain to others. The newspapers exaggerated his role, claiming he had killed far more men than he actually did. But Billy didn't mind the attention. The legend was growing. He once joked, "If I killed all those men they say I did, I'd be dead of old age by now." For many poor settlers and Hispanic families in the region, Billy represented defiance against corruption. He wasn't seen as a murderer, but as someone who stood up to the rich and powerful. On the other hand, to the business class and lawmen, he was nothing more than a menace. A loose cannon who had to be stopped. The Lincoln County War didn't really end with a winner. Murphy's power faded, Tunstall was dead, and the territory remained unstable. But Billy's life had changed forever. He was no longer Henry McCarty, the orphan boy. He was now Billy the Kid, the most famous young outlaw in America. The war had given him a reputation, but it also painted a target on his back. From here on out, lawmen, bounty hunters, and enemies alike would chase him. Every town he entered, people whispered, "Is that Billy the Kid?"
Keep your voice down.
Looks younger than I thought.
He carries himself like he owns the street.
Is that Billy the Kid?
Some saw him as a Robin Hood of the frontier, others as a reckless criminal. Either way, his legend was unstoppable. Billy's role in the Lincoln County War cemented his reputation, but it also sealed his fate. From here on, he was a wanted man, hunted across the Southwest, and that hunt would lead to daring escapes, betrayals, and finally, a deadly showdown with his old friend Pat Garrett. So, stay tuned, because in our next episode, we'll cover Billy's most legendary jailbreak, the one that made him a household name across America.